Tonight on Wink, missiles blast what remains of Syria. New video of the war-torn country after an international military response.
And new details on a shooting at a Cape Coral gun range, how the staff is responding to a terrible tragedy there.
And giving a platform to the people who suffered the most, how local law enforcement help victims of tragedy move forward.
Now, from Southwest Florida's news leader, this is Wink News at 6.
Wink News is the weather authority. A severe storm system is making its way across the country. This is just some of the damage the storms left behind in Arkansas. And now it's coming to Southwest Florida. Wink News meteorologist Janine Alper joins us now to tell us how the storms will affect us tomorrow. Janine.
Yeah, Brittany, it's the same storm system today across the Deep South that's coming to us. So far, reports of 17 tornadoes with this system and over 155 reports of damaging wind and hail. So what we're going to see, let me just make a quick adjustment here so I can move this. There you go. There's that line of storms right now. Tornado watch in effect for the extreme west part of the Panhandle. The storm system overnight holds together as it moves through North Florida and arrives by about late afternoon and dinner time here in Southwest Florida. Today, the greatest risk of severe weather, again, is in the Panhandle and into Alabama. Tomorrow, a slight risk of severe storms all across Florida, including us. So I'll be back with more details on that and the hot weather coming up.
Janine, thank you. Brand new images of what's left of Syrian buildings from overnight airstrikes. The U.S., France, and U.K. struck the country with more than 100 missiles. The Western forces say they were targeting chemical weapons sites. It's all in retaliation for a suspected gas attack they say the Syrian government launched against its own people. Wink News reporter Kim Hutchison shows us how the world is reacting to the coordinated attack.
Russia condemning the U.S. and its allies over airstrikes in Syria and demanding a vote at the end of the UN Security Council meeting.
In a sign of cynical disdain, a group of Western countries decided to take military action.
Meanwhile, U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, firing back and defending Friday night's assault.
If the Syrian regime uses this poisonous gas again, the United States is locked and loaded.
President Trump hailed the multinational effort, declaring mission accomplished on Twitter and thanking France and the UK for their coordination. The Pentagon echoing the president's assessment, saying 105 missiles were launched and hit their targets.
I'd use 3 words to describe this operation: precise, overwhelming, and effective.
The strikes came a week after an alleged chemical weapons attack by the Syrian government, which killed scores of people, including children.
The pictures of dead children were not fake news. They were the result of the Syrian regime's barbaric inhumanity.
The Pentagon says the airstrikes crippled the heart of Syria's chemical weapons infrastructure.
Our hope is that Syria and their patrons got the message.
I'm Kim Hutchison reporting.
And Pence also says there's a U.S. investigation underway in the attack that could determine if the Syrian government did in fact use sarin gas. And breaking new details tonight on a shooting at a Cape Coral gun range. KPD says the man who was rushed to the hospital died, and they believe he intentionally shot himself. The incident took place yesterday afternoon at the Shoot Center gun range off of Del Prado Boulevard.
Shoot Center says they're remorseful about the incident. They posted a statement on Facebook last night offering support for, quote, the devoted customers and staff present during this unfortunate event. They added, although we're shaken by this incident, it'll not affect our mission to train, equip, and educate the members of our community in the safest environment possible. Shoot Center says they reopened this morning for normal business hours.
And new details in a deadly crash this morning. FHP says Ashley Sullivan died at the scene. It happened in North Fort Myers this morning along the drawbridge above the Caloosahatchee. The other driver crossed the middle lane and hit Sullivan's car. Investigators are looking to see if alcohol was involved. And police are still searching for a killer on the run. 56-year-old Lois Reese is accused of murdering 2 people, one of them on Fort Myers Beach. Wink News first told you about this story earlier this week. Police identified Pamela Hutchison as a victim in a beachside condo. They believe Reese befriended her on purpose because they look similar. She stole her ID in her car and took off. Reese is also accused of killing her husband last month in Minnesota. She was last spotted in South Texas, but she's still on the run tonight. And new tonight, giving a platform for people who've suffered the most. The state attorney's office hosted a victims' rights event this afternoon. It capped off National Victims' Rights Week by working to reach all people affected by violent crimes, including families here in our very own community. Wink News reporter Oliver Reston spoke to some of those families who went to the event tonight. Oliver.
Well, John Carlos, it was an emotional day here at Centennial Park. Dozens of victims were in attendance, some of them sharing emotional stories of losing loved ones to crime right here in Southwest Florida. The state attorney's office says the event this year is aimed at what they call expanding the circle to provide help to victims of crime, and many local organizations were in attendance offering resources and support. But some victims took the opportunity to renew their calls of justice for their loved ones.
My son was murdered here in Fort Myers, 12 years next month. And every year I hope for an arrest. And it hasn't happened. 12 years is a long time to wait for justice.
And John Carlos and Brittany, one theme we heard a lot today from both victims and law enforcement: if you hear something or you know something about a crime, say something. Live in Fort Myers, Oliver Redston, Wink News Now.
Oliver, thank you. Millions spent protecting a CEO. A new public filing shows that Facebook spent more than $20 million in the last 3 years on Mark Zuckerberg's security. Documents do say that the CEO and founder only took home $1 for his base salary last year, but they spent $9 million on his safety and travel. Zuckerberg testified in front of Congress this week over Facebook's handling of user information.
In trouble for a popular airline here in Southwest Florida. Allegiant Air's stock plummeted more than 8% ahead of 60 Minutes investigation tomorrow. It explores the company's safety records. Allegiant is responsible for the majority of the flights out of the Punta Gorda Airport. You can watch the story on Wink TV tomorrow night at 7 o'clock.
Fighting for scientific integrity. Across the country, several cities hosted marches for science. This is the aerial view from the march in D.C. this afternoon. This year is the movement's second year in a row. In New York, people carried signs and drew on the streets to show they're on the side of science. While crowds weren't as big as they were last year, the optimism and hope remain the same. The energy from that rally is also here in Southwest Florida.
Not silence! Science! Not silence!
Today, people marched in Fort Myers hoping to raise awareness on scientific integrity. They marched downtown from Centennial Park to the old courthouse. They say they're marching to highlight the importance of scientists and what they do for our planet.
We want to make sure that we are amplifying the voice of scientists, we stand with them, and that we're able to connect them to the community.
More than 400 cities nationwide held similar March for Science rallies today.
And going literally over the edge for the community. Today, people and law enforcement in Charlotte County rappelled down the SunTrust building in Port Charlotte, including our very own Taylor Basaki.
Okay, all right, we're going into the window now. Oh my goodness.
Charlotte Over the Edge event raised thousands of dollars for drug abuse awareness and prevention. Even the Charlotte County Sheriff joined on the fund. All the proceeds go back to the community. It benefits the organization Drug Free Charlotte County and its programs.
Our Safe Use, Safe Storage, Safe Disposal program, which is about medication safety from toddlers through seniors. We have some education and campaign about that. It also is helping to support our newly launched community collaborative.
It was the first Over the Edge event in Port Charlotte. If you missed it today, Drug Free Charlotte County is working to bring the event back next year as well.
April is Autism Acceptance Month, and today Family Initiative Incorporated partnered with Lee County Schools to hold their second event. Kids from all over Southwest Florida played a wide variety of interactive games. Meanwhile, instructors educated adults on the importance of accepting those with autism in school and the workplace. Event organizers say bringing families together who may face similar circumstances is very valuable.
Obviously, the families we work with, they go through a lot. I think for them to come together today, meet each other, we saw a lot of the families networking, connecting, communicating, which just to us is really awesome.
More than 100 families from all over Southwest Florida attended today's free event. Play ball. The Florida State Attorney's Office representing Southwest Florida held their 16th annual softball tournament today. Law enforcement agencies from all over Southwest Florida spent the day playing softball and games with their families. From a home run derby to children getting their face painted, the state attorney's offices say this annual event is another way of showing their appreciation for law enforcement.
But we want to show our appreciation for what law enforcement throughout Southwest Florida does every day. We have a great partnership with law enforcement in the community, and it has resulted in having the lowest overall crime rate in this state.
All of the proceeds from today's event will be going to Southwest Florida Crime Stoppers. 300 tables full of treasures waiting to be discovered.
Up ahead on Wink News at 6, we'll show you Florida's longest yard sale.
And I'm meteorologist Janine Albert filling in tonight for Zach. I'm tracking severe storms moving across Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, heading to Florida next. I'll be back with those details after the break.
Honoring his fallen brothers, a retired Orange County firefighter is walking across the entire state of Florida. Tom Bull-Hill says he wants to raise awareness for cancer-related benefits for firefighters' families. Now today he walked up the Space Coast. Hill started his walk in the Keys back in March. He wants to finish in Tallahassee in May. And the calendar says spring, but up north you wouldn't know it. Take a look at this snow blanketing parts of the upper Midwest. The Minnesota Twins postponed their second game in a row against the Chicago White Sox. It's the first time that Target Field postponed two back-to-back games because of the weather. In South Dakota, a blizzard stopped Rapid City in its tracks, shut down highways right there. You can see that cattle that was also huddled from the wind. Look how bad that looks. Wow.
Very cold. And then there's the severe storm system that we're tracking that's moving along the country as well. And Arkansas caused a lot of damage, and it sounds like it's coming right for us now.
Yeah, and this whole thing is the same system, the same one that brought snow to the Rockies. 28 inches in Utah and about a foot in Minnesota, and then all the severe weather, the tornadoes. Those typical